Hi, this is Math is Easy with Mr. Smith. Today's lesson is part 1 of linear equations. Eric is thinking about the trip to see his grandparents in St. George. It's a 5-hour drive in the back seat with his very annoying little brother. He's thinking about the tunes he'll listen to on his headphones when his father walks up and says, "You are on Are We There Yet duty." Eric's brother asks, "Are we there yet?" all the time on a long drive. And instead of his mother and father having to answer, Eric has to answer. There goes the tunes. But then Eric remembers something from math class that can solve his problem. So Eric says, "No prob, Dad. Hey, how far is it and how fast will you drive?" "I'm glad you're being responsible, Eric. It's 300 miles and I'll average 60 miles per hour." When they're getting ready to leave, Eric says, "Just use this and check the clock on the dashboard." His little brother is very less annoying on the trip and never asks, "Are we there yet?" once. His father says, "That was amazing, Eric. How did you do it?" Eric responds, "I used a linear equation." His father admits, "I was never good at math. How does that work?" Eric explains, "You said it's 300 miles and I'll average 60 miles per hour. The 60 miles per hour is called a rate of change. In this case, we're changing our position every hour by 60 miles. So I made a table and labeled it with our two variables, hours and miles. Since we have 300 miles to go, that's my first entry under miles. After 1 hour, we'll only have 240 miles to go. I figured that out because our rate of change is 60 miles per hour. So we keep going like that, subtracting 60 miles for each hour until we get to 0, which means we're there. Notice on the other side, we were changing by 1 hour each time we changed by 60 miles on the other side. When both sides change by the same amount, it's called a constant rate of change. His father says, "Okay, I get the table, but you gave your brother a graph." "Right. I made a graph with hours on the bottom, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then I put miles on the side and put the miles in, 60, 120, 180, etc. up to 300. The two columns in the table make ordered pairs. Hours is the X and miles is the Y. We'll put a 0 in next to 300 because until we started driving, no time had passed and we were still 300 miles away. So the first ordered pair is 0, 300, which would go right there. And then the next point is 1, 240, which goes right there, and so on to 180, 3, 120, 460, and finally 50. When there's 0 miles left, that means we're at Grandma's house. Notice that these points make a line. When you have a constant rate of change, it makes a line. So we say the variables have a linear relationship. When I gave the graph to my brother, I just made one small adjustment. I wrote the times down underneath the hours. That way, all he had to do was look at the time and see how far we had to go. That's a great explanation. I could use that to see how much gas I need for our trip. I get 25 miles per gallon. I could make a table and graph. Let's help Eric's dad with that. Eric's dad gets 25 miles per hour. Let's make a table and a graph. First, decide on the two variables. In this case, we have gallons and miles. Next, fill in the table with 25 miles for each gallon. On 1 gallon, we can go 25 miles. On 2 gallons, we can go 50 miles. Notice that we have a constant rate of change, changing by 1 gallon on the left and 25 miles on the right. Now that the table's done, we can label the graph. First we'll put in our 2 zeros, then our gallons, and then our miles. Next we'll plot the points from the table. Our first point is 125, then 250, 375, 4 100, and 5 125. The points make a line, so we see again that a constant rate of change gives us a linear relationship. But I see a small problem. The graph and table don't go all the way to 300 miles, so Eric's dad still doesn't know how many gallons he'll need for the trip. Says Eric, just make the table longer. That will take forever. Is there an easier way? Here's your challenge problem. Use the linear relationship to find an easier way. Okay, let's review. When two variables change at the same rate, it makes a constant rate of change, and the variables have a linear relationship. And remember, math is easy. It's a good idea to practice your skills after you've learned them. On the next 2 slides are 2 problems. Pause the video, try and do the 2 problems, and then check the answers on the next slide.